Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, the President of the ECOWAS Commission, Your Excellency, Dr. Omar Aliu Toure, Ministers of State from member countries, our development partners, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to Accra, Ghana, and to the West Africa Rice Investment Roundtable, held under the joint auspices of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, the World Bank Group, the African Development Bank, and hosted by the Republic of Ghana. Please put your hands together for yourselves. This conference is on the theme, Mobilizing Transformational Capital to Support West Africa's Rice Agenda. My name is Bernard Avle. I am one of the two co-MCs, and I invite my colleague, Anita Esking, to continue with the proceedings. Anita?
Bienvenue, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs. Pour commencer, veuillez accueillir l'honorable Eric Opoku, ministre de l'Alimentation et de l'Agriculture du Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, and now to start the proceedings, as my co-MC has mentioned, please warmly welcome the Minister of Food and Agriculture of the Republic of Ghana, Honorable Eric Opoku.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman. Honorable Ministers here and assembled, distinguished development partners, representatives of financial institutions, private sector leaders, invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to welcome you all to Accra for this important roundtable. To my fellow ministers who have traveled from across the region, to our development partners, our financial institutions, and our private sector leaders, I extend the warm greetings of the government and the people of Ghana. We are gathered here around a shared regional ambition, rice self-sufficiency and food security for West Africa. This roundtable comes at a defining moment for our region's agricultural transformation. Rice is among the most consumed staples across West Africa, with regional per capita consumption of about 63 kilograms a year. Here in Ghana, it is our second most consumed cereal, with current per capita consumption of about 51 kilograms in ricin. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me be direct about where Ghana stands because the numbers tell the story better than any speech can. Last year, we consumed roughly 1.7 million tons of rice, and demand keeps rising as our population grows at close to 2% annually. We produce around 960,000 tons of made rice domestically. That leaves a deficit of close to 751,000 tons, a self-sufficiency rate of 56%. To close that gap, we spend around $320 million United States dollars on rice imports annually. That is foreign exchange and jobs leaving our economy. In recent years, for a crop we are fully capable of growing ourselves. Our production sits across three main ecologies: rain-fed lowland, inland valley, which accounts for almost 90% of output, and irrigated systems at around 10%. Our farmers today average 3.4 tons per hectare. The statement that this gap is closable is not a matter of hope, it is proven. Under the system of rice intensification, irrigation plots in Ghana have reached 6.5 tons per hectare against 3.8 tons under conventional practice, a near doubling on the same land. With improved seed, water, mechanization, and agronomy, 6 tons per hectare is well within rich, especially under irrigation. Ghana's rice milling recovery stands at around 55%, which is below the global benchmark of 65%. This gap stems from over-dried paddy, missing of varieties, and mills without the required components, which result in high breakage and impurities. These losses, amounting to about 50 to 90 million United States dollars annually, increase the cost of production and therefore the price of Ghana rice, making the industry uncompetitive against cheaper imports. So I want to reframe the challenge for everyone in this room. Our rice deficit is not simply a burden on our balance of payments. It is the single largest untapped agribusiness opportunity in our stable food economy. An opportunity for investment, for industrialization, and for high productivity jobs. For too long, investment in our rice sector has been held back by a simple problem: uncertainty about where precisely the productive opportunities lie. Today, I am pleased to announce that Ghana has changed that story. We have commissioned advanced satellite-based geospatial mapping to identify, delineate, and characterize rice-suitable land nationwide, the full expanse we will need to reach self-sufficiency. Organized into production clusters, using high-resolution Earth observation imagery, we are mapping field-level boundaries, classifying actual rice cultivation, and assessing water availability and irrigation potential cluster by cluster. Initial mapping across our principal rice-growing regions has identified approximately 515,000 hectares of land currently under rice cultivation, spanning our rain-fed lowland, irrigated lowland, and inland valley ecologies. What this means for the partners and investors in this room is straightforward. We are no longer offering you vague potential. We are offering verified, location-specific, monitorable opportunities, land we can point to on a map with its ecology characterized and its productivity gap quantified. And because the same satellite backbone allows us to monitor crop development and estimate yields season by season, it gives investors, the financiers, something they really have in smallholder agriculture: transparency and a credible basis for tracking performance. This is how we make a national rice expansion program bankable. We are pursuing this work in partnership with the renowned Dr. Catherine Nakalembe and her team from the NASA Harvest Program, with support from the World Bank. And it will form the data foundation of Ghana's Rice Foundation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, knowing where to invest is one thing. Creating market certainty that makes investment worthwhile is another. That is why I'm announcing a second decisive measure today. Government will implement an import quota policy that directly links the privilege of importing rice to the growth of domestic production. Under this policy, rice importers will be required to demonstrate verifiable procurement of and partnership with Ghanaian rice production before import permits are approved. Let me be clear about the principle behind us. We are not raising tariffs that punish consumers. We are not imposing bans that create shortages. We are redirecting the existing value in the rice trade towards building our own productive capacity. The import share will reduce progressively over the next 10 years, but each reduction will be contingent on verified milestones in domestic production. We will not create a gap we cannot fill. And critically, this policy is designed to be self-financing, carrying no new burden on the national treasury, and it will be governed transparently on a clear statutory basis, with safeguards to ensure it benefits rich, genuine producers and the smallholders linked to them, not a privileged few. The full framework will be published, and we will engage every stakeholder represented here as we operationalize it. So where does this take us to? Our analysis shows a credible pathway to 100% rice self-sufficiency within 10 years. That pathway will save Ghana an estimated $2.1 billion in cumulative foreign exchange, mobilize over $400 million in private investment, and create more than 200,000 jobs across farming, processing, distribution, and allied services. And we will get there inclusively because this is about people. Nearly 600,000 farming households in Ghana already cultivate rice. And our other rice value chain nodes support the livelihoods of well over 500,000 Ghanaians, from input dealers to millers to traders. Women are central to it. Roughly a third of our rice farmers are women, and it is women who dominate the aggregation, processing, and trade that turn paddy into the rice on our tables. Lifting this sector means lifting our women. This model rests on 3 tiers, working together. Commercial anchor farmers that bring scale and discipline. Networks of our outgrowers contracted to those farms with guaranteed market access. And our existing smallholder base, whose productivity we are committed to raising alongside the rest. This is not transformation for a few large players. It is transformation that pulls our smallholder farmers along, and the women who power the value chain up with it. These 2 announcements sit within a wider program of action. Under the government Feed Ghana program, we are investing in irrigation expansion, mechanization services, improved seed systems, fertilizer efficiency, post-harvest infrastructure, aggregation centers, and value addition across the rice value chain. We are reinforcing our Buy Ghana First policy so that public institutions, including the military, the prison service, our schools, and hospitals, prioritize Ghanaian rice. And we are establishing an interministerial task force to intensify surveillance and enforcement against rice smuggling through unauthorized border routes, which continues to undercut our farmers. To the investors, financiers, and development partners in this room, my message is simple. Ghana has done the work to de-risk the sector. We have mapped the opportunity. We have created the market certainty. We have aligned the incentives. We have built the monitoring backbone that lets you verify performance. What remains is partnership. And partnership is what we are ready for. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I at this juncture commend ECOWAS, the World Bank Group, JICA, Quaker, the African Development Bank, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, Food and Agricultural Organization, and all our partners for their leadership behind the Regional Rice Roadmap and the National Rice Investment Action Plans. These frameworks give us a coordinated pathway. And the Ghana model we are advancing is designed to be replicable across the sub-region. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the case for action is overwhelming, and the cause of delay is concrete. Every year that passes without this transformation costs Ghana approximately $320 million in foreign exchange, money that should be in the hands of our own farmers, our own millers, and our own workers. The sub-region is investment ready. Ghana is investment ready. I warmly welcome all of you sincerely to the capital city, Accra. Thank you, and may God bless you all.
Our next speaker wears two hats. He is the Deputy Minister for Finance for the Republic of Ghana. He is also the Member of Parliament for Esuojaman, which houses Ghana's iconic Akosombo Dam, which powers our lights and provides waters for our rice farmers in the floodplains in the south. Please welcome the Honorable Thomas Nyaku Ampim.
Madam Vice President, Professor Jane Nana Opoku Ajiman, my senior colleague Member of Parliament and Minister for Food and Agriculture, Honorable Eric Opoku, the President of ECOWAS Commission, representatives from the World Bank, AFDB, heads of delegations, representatives of ECOWAS and regional institutions, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Ghana's Finance Minister, Dr. Kasil Atto-Forson, I welcome you to Accra for this important regional dialogue. I convey to you the warm regards of Minister Forson, who attaches great importance to this engagement and to the broader agenda of strengthening economic resilience across West Africa. Unfortunately, pressing state duties have prevented him from joining us in person. At the outset, ladies and gentlemen, let me commend the ECOWAS Commission, the World Bank Group, the African Development Bank Group, and all collaborating institutions for convening this timely and strategic roundtable. Let me also especially thank you for choosing Ghana as host of this important conversation. Indeed, for our brothers and sisters from Nigeria and across the region, perhaps you agree that there was no better venue for a rice roundtable than the home of the finest jollof. Ladies and gentlemen, in West Africa, we often passionately debate whose jollof tastes better. But beyond the humor lies a serious economic question. Why should a region so passionate about rice still spend billions importing it every year? Recent estimates suggest that West Africa continues to spend about $3 to $4 billion United States dollars annually importing rice. That is billions in foreign exchange leaving our economies each year to finance demand we should increasingly be meeting ourselves. Therefore, the real jollof competition before us is not whose rice tastes better, even though we know Ghana's is the best. It is whether West Africa can finally produce enough rice to feed itself competitively. This situation is economically unsustainable and strategically untenable. The widening gap between our productive capacity and our consumption needs continues to place enormous pressure on our economies. It drains scarce foreign exchange, weakens domestic value chains, exposes our countries to external supply shocks, and limits the jobs and prosperity that should arise from a commodity we consume so heavily. Yet, the paradox is obvious. We know that West Africa is not short of potential in rice production. We have the land, we have the water resources, and we have the farmers. What we have lacked for far too long is sufficient transformational capital capable of unlocking this potential at scale. Clearly, transformational capital means more than money. It means patient capital that funds irrigation, not just seasonal inputs. It means risk-tolerant capital that invests in storage, milling, logistics, and processing, not just commodity trading. It means strategic regional capital that sees a West African rice economy, not fragmented national markets separated by borders. That is the scale of ambition this movement demands. I am confident that if we fundamentally rethink how we see rice, this region can unlock and attract the capital required to transform the sector. That transformation begins with a radical mindset shift that recognizes that rice is not only about feeding the region. It is about creating industries, jobs, incomes, exports, and regional macroeconomic resilience. That is precisely why Ghana is pleased to host this roundtable. Having weathered recent macroeconomic storms, Ghana is resetting its economy with a deliberate focus on productive transformation, food security, value addition, and private sector-led growth. Under the leadership of His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, ably supported by Her Excellency Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, agriculture, particularly strategic value chains such as rice, is being repositioned as a central pillar of economic transformation. Through targeted interventions, Ghana is de-risking agriculture by strengthening agriculture value chains, improving market coordination, supporting price stability mechanisms, expanding opportunities for agro-processing, and creating a more predictable investment environment. This is being reinforced by improving macroeconomic stability, easing inflationary pressures, stronger investor confidence, and renewed momentum towards investment-led growth. Ghana's message to investors is straightforward. We are doing the policy work. We are strengthening the enabling environment. We are creating the condition for long-term capital to thrive. The government of Ghana is clearing the path. Now we need partners to walk it with us. Unfortunately, we recognize that Ghana, like many West African states, does not lack demand for rice. Ultimately, we do not lack demand for rice. What we have lacked is sufficient investment in the systems that produce it competitively. Distinguished guests, the opportunities across the rice value chain are enormous in West Africa. The sector has the potential to create millions of jobs, particularly for women and young people. But for most governments, this agenda goes beyond agriculture. It is about reducing import dependence, strengthening value chains, improving trade balances, stabilizing currencies, and resilience. That is why financing models for rice in West Africa must evolve. West Africa does not need more declarations. We need to create pipelines of bankable projects capable of crowding in long-term capital at scale. Put simply, the time for talking about West Africa's rice potential is over. The time for financing it is now. This roundtable offers the time and place to mobilize this capital. Ladies and gentlemen, the ECOWAS Rice Roundtable provides an important platform for coordinated regional action. But success will depend not only on how much capital we mobilize, it will depend also on how effectively we align policy frameworks and standards, infrastructure and regional trade systems, financing structures, and institutions across our economies. Distinguished guests, this roundtable comes at a critical time for our region. I am confident that the conversations here will generate practical partnerships, credible investment pipelines, and create commitments capable of moving us decisively from dialogue to implementation. Let us therefore work together to build a West Africa that feeds itself and secures its economic future through regional cooperation. Let us turn West Africa's rice gap into West Africa's rice gain. The market is here. The opportunity is here. The case for investment is here. On that note, I once again welcome you warmly to Ghana and wish you fruitful deliberations. Enjoy your stay and enjoy Ghana's jollof. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Minister. Est-ce que ma famille sénégalaise, vous êtes ici? Les Sénégalaises? Mais même si je suis ghanéenne, moi je pense que le meilleur jollof vient du Sénégal. Your Excellency, I just said, even though I'm Ghanaian, I think the best jollof comes from Senegal, hands down. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we move the program forward. It's now time for our regional and development partner statements. It gives me great pleasure to bring to the stage the Vice President for Planet World Bank. Please warmly welcome Mr. Guanji Chen.
Your Excellency, Vice President of Republic of Ghana, distinguished ministers, the President of ECOWAS, partners, colleagues, and ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you, and welcome to joining us this very critical West Africa Rice Investment Roundtables. We're meeting in Accra today at a pivotal moment for West Africa's food security and economic future. Rice is central to both. It feeds millions of people, supports jobs from farming to processing and trade, and is an engine for economic growth and stability. And yet, West Africa still import 40% of the rice that it consumes, at annual cost of between $4 to $5 billion for ECOWAS countries alone. And this is not just an economic problem, it is a strategic vulnerability. A region with enormous agricultural potential should not remain dependent on volatile global markets for stable food that it can competitively produce itself. Recent shocks from fertilizers to rising global prices has exposed just how destabilizing such dependence can be. The question is whether we can move fast enough to turn this situation around. The good news is that the region is not starting from scratch. The ECOWAS Rice Roadmap provides a strong foundation. The Rice Observatories is improving data and coordination. Countries have clear investment plan moving forward. What is needed is execution and financing at scale. And this is why the World Bank Group has launched the AgriConnect initiative last October 2025 to move beyond the thematic projects and support large-scale transformation across the value chain. Our ambition is to transform farming for 300 million smallholder farmers by 2030. What matters is this approach. Rice transformation cannot happen in silos. It requires policy reform, infrastructure, financing, logistics, storage, market access, and private investment to move together, and what we call a sustainable ecosystems. Through the West Africa Food System Resilience Programs, one of the flagship programs under AgriConnect, the World Bank is mobilizing US $1.2 billion to support productivity, market integration, and regional coordination in 8 countries, reaching about 3.2 million beneficiaries. It also supports the ECOWAS Rice Observatory, additional investment in Nigeria, Togo, Burkina Faso, and Guinea will bring another $300 to $400 million investment in the rice value chain. But financing remains one of the biggest constraints. Fertilizers, seeds, and other input remain out of reach for many small farmers. African farmers use far less fertilizer than the global average, not by choice, but because of financing is too limited or too risky. Therefore, de-risking of financing is one of the key solutions that we're working on. Guarantees, branded financing, and risk-sharing instruments can help local banks to finance farmers, distributors, and agribusiness at scale. We know these tools work. The challenge is how to deploy them faster and move systematically across the region. And finally, we must connect farmers to markets. Producing more rices is not enough if storage, processing, and logistics remain weak. The real opportunity lies in building complete value chain that create jobs and competitive industries across the region. This is why ACRAS matters. I think this forum matters. This is not just another conferences, it's an opportunity to turn plans into investment and wise systems into engine for jobs, growth, and food security. The window of action is narrow. Population growth, climate pressures, and geopolitical shocks are putting food system under strain, while donor financing tighten and private capital still moving too slowly. But opportunity is real. Governments are mobilizing, investors are looking for opportunities for impacts, and we now have the tools and the partnerships that can turn this ambition into investment and investment into result. The time for delivery is now. Let's embrace this opportunity and using quoting the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, be a committed partners in this journey ahead. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to hear from the Director, Agricultural Finance and Rural Development, African Development Bank. Please put your hands together for Mr. Richard Ofori Mantin.
Good morning, Your Excellency, Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. Your Excellency, Dr. Omar Ali Ture, President of the ECOWAS Commission. Honorable Mr. Eric Opoku, Minister of Food and Agriculture of the Republic of Ghana. Honorable Thomas Ampem, Deputy Minister of Finance of the Republic of Ghana. Honorable Ministers present, distinguished development partners, private sector leaders, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege to join you at this defining moment for West Africa's food systems transformation. I wish to commend the government of Ghana, ECOWAS, the World Bank Group, and all partners for convening this strategic platform. Let me begin with a simple but urgent reality. West Africa continues to import nearly 12 million metric tons of rice annually, at a cost exceeding 3.5 billion. This is not just a food security concern, it is a significant macroeconomic vulnerability, placing sustained pressure on foreign exchange reserves and representing a missed opportunity for domestic value creation, industrial development, and large-scale job creation. And yet, the paradox is clear. The region possesses abundant agricultural land, expanding markets, growing private sector interest, and critically, a young and dynamic population capable of driving transformation. The question before us is no longer whether the opportunity exists. The question is whether we are prepared to move from ambition to execution at scale. This roundtable comes at precisely the right time. The planning phase is largely complete. Countries have developed investment pipelines and identified priority basins. What is now required is disciplined implementation and mobilization of capital at scale. At the African Development Bank, agriculture and food systems transformation remains central to our development agenda. During the Dakar 2 Food Summit held in Senegal in January 2023, more than 30 African heads of states and governments, development finance institutions, private sector leaders, and technical partners came together around a common objective: transforming Africa into a food sovereign and food exporting continent. Under the leadership of the African Development Bank and in partnership with governments and development partners, African countries developed food and agricultural delivery compacts designed to accelerate food production, strengthen resilience, reduce import dependence, and unlock private investment into agriculture and food systems. For West Africa, rice emerged as a strategic priority across many of these compacts, given its central role in food security, economic stability, and regional trade integration. To support the implementation of these compacts, the African Development Bank committed to mobilize $10 billion towards Africa's agricultural transformation agenda. It is within this broader continental vision that the Regional West Africa Resilient Rice Value Chains Development Program, REWARD in short, has been developed by the bank as a flagship regional platform covering all 15 ECOWAS member countries. This $680 million value chains, this $680 million program is designed not simply to increase production, but to transform entire rice value chains from irrigation and seed systems to mechanization, aggregation, processing, logistics, and market systems, while crowding in private investment at scale. Significant progress is already being made. To date, the African Development Bank's board has approved close to $136 million for initial rice operations, including regional grants to ECOWAS and African Rice, as well as country projects in the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, and Cote d'Ivoire. Ghana, as well as other ECOWAS countries, are advancing under the bank's 2026-2027 lending program as strategic anchor countries for implementation. Indeed, just last week, the board of the African Development Fund approved a grant amount of about $18.6 million to finance part of the cost of the REWARD project for Ghana. REWARD is not just about rice, it is about transformation at scale. By strengthening climate resilience production systems, expanding irrigation, modernizing processing, and improving competitiveness, the program aims to close the rice supply gap, enhance food sovereignty, and build resilient food systems. At the same time, it is positioned to create opportunities for over 1 million farmers while supporting thousands of enterprises across the value chain, particularly for women and youth. Distinguished participants, the challenge before us is clear. It is no longer strategy design, but implementation and investment mobilization at scale. Recent engagements reinforce this reality. Discussions with industry stakeholders have highlighted that the constraint is not demand, but access to affordable long-term financing, efficient aggregation systems, and competitive processing capacity. This requires strong partnerships between government, development finance institutions, commercial investors, agribusiness, and the private sector. It also requires innovative blended finance instruments capable of de-risking investments in irrigation, mechanization, storage, processing, logistics, and market systems. This is why the African Development Bank is also advancing a set of complementary initiatives to unlock capital and de-risk investments. A proposed $200 million agro-input risk-sharing facility is designed to leverage a blended finance structure to de-risk lending to agro-input market players, thereby incentivizing private sector participation and expanding access to finance. At the same time, the bank, under the new leadership of President Sidi Tar, is advancing the new African Financial Architecture for Development, NAFAD for short. NAFAD, endorsed by the African Union in February 2026, seeks to plug Africa's financing gap by tapping the continent's own resources more effectively, unlocking domestic savings, building continent-wide guarantee and shared risk systems, while developing local capital markets. NAFAD represents an important shift towards building long-term African financing ecosystems capable of mobilizing capital at scale for accelerated, inclusive, and resilient growth in Africa, which would include supporting large-scale agricultural transformation and agro-industrialization. Together, these efforts reflect a fundamental shift. Africa's agricultural transformation cannot be financed through traditional development assistance alone. We must mobilize private capital at scale and build long-term African financing ecosystems. To succeed, 5 priorities must guide our collective efforts: expanding large-scale irrigation systems, strengthening mechanization and productivity, investing in aggregation and agro-processing, mobilizing blended finance to crowd in private sector, and deepening regional market integration. At the center of this transformation is Africa's youth. The rice value chain offers substantial opportunities across irrigation systems, mechanization, processing, logistics, digital agriculture, and agribusiness entrepreneurship. Harnessing this potential is essential in turning Africa's demographic growth into an economic dividend. Distinguished colleagues, what this roundtable represents is exactly the shift we need, moving from fragmented projects to coordinated platforms that align policy, investment pipelines, partners, and capital around execution. The African Development Bank stands ready to work alongside all partners to accelerate the implementation of West Africa's rights agenda. Together, we can transform West Africa from a major rice importing region into a globally competitive hub for rice production and agro-industrialization, thereby creating millions of jobs for Africa's young people. Thank you.
Pour nous présenter la vision qui guidera nos efforts collectifs au cours de la prochaine décennie. Veuillez accueillir la commission de la CEDEAO pour sa présentation vers l'autosuffisance rizicole en Afrique de l'Ouest. Ladies and gentlemen, please warmly welcome Dr. Kalilu Sila, ECOWAS Commissioner for Economic Affairs and Agriculture, on the presentation for the Vision for Rice Self-Sufficiency in West Africa by 2035.
Honorable Vice President of Ghana, Honorable President of ECOWAS Commission, Honorable Vice President of World Bank, Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Finance of within the region, Honorable representative of the regional integration bodies, CIS, UMOA, CORAF and Africa Rice, all the partners of development, dear partners, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues from ECOWAS. It's a huge honor and a great pleasure to present on behalf of the region our response, or I should say, the ECOWAS rice agenda, I should say West Africa rice agenda. So to this presentation, we come from a long journey. We have the CADEP, which is the continental agricultural policy. Based on that, ECOWAS have a regional policy. This regional policy held what we call the rice offensive. This offensive ended in 2025, but what we notice, we still have, our region is still a huge import of rice, 3 times superior, the importation is 3 times superior to the rice production within the region. It's unacceptable. It cannot be acceptable. Why? For the region which is the first producer of cocoa, cashew nut within the world, it's not acceptable to have this. That's why we changed the paradigm. And on this, if you look at our potential, it's not acceptable because we have a huge potential. The potential, huge potential in terms of, we have 12 regional production basin, and we lose huge opportunity in terms of huge opportunity in terms of market, in terms of growth, in terms of youth, work for youth. It's unacceptable at all. That's why the response, ECOWAS response, and the regional response was this agenda, new agenda, Regional Rice Roadmap 2005-2035, focusing on the gap we don't have for the past, with a vision very clear, progress towards cost competitive and cost-effective rice self-sufficiency in West Africa, with the key element between others to focus on productivity, sound policy, productivity, and support to member states. That's very important. Our approach is a new one. My president used to tell me, Sila, we need action to the member states, not too much meeting. We are here, we are. We have a global policy at regional level, with the sound policy at regional level, to set up an ecosystem at regional level, and to support member states. This support is to help each member state to have the sound policy and also to have the investment plan and involving more private sector. And then we move to mobilize funds for the countries. This approach is like connecting local to regional and regional to global to mobilize fund expertise oriented, countries oriented. It's not only the members, ECOWAS country members, it's also people not belonging to ECOWAS. We are supporting all these countries, 13 in total. And then here I have to congratulate the World and salute the World Bank, Africa Development Bank, or all the other partners. Toward them will support this initiative. So this initiative is an investment initiative, opportunity to invest. As you can see, we are looking for $23 billion. A majority of them, maximum 18 for irrigation, infrastructure, storage, and so on and so forth. And 6 million for the what we can call the capital, or the working capitals. So, having said that, Madam Vice President, as I told you at the beginning, it's not acceptable that what our region, the first producer, I will shift now in French. To conclude, il n'est pas acceptable que notre région, qui est la première producteur mondial de café, de cacao, de cajou, les meilleures productions d'huile de palme, de VA, soit pas capable de produire du riz suffisamment pour les populations. C'est ce que nous avions donc fait. Et ça, c'est le message très fort. La présence de la vice-présidente du Ghana, le président de la CEDEAO, est un signal fort pour notre région. Et tous les ministres de l'Agriculture et des Finances est un signal fort de volonté politique dans notre région. Et l'écosystème, j'allais dire, est bien ordonné, mis en place. Et le temps qu'il nous reste à faire, I should come back in English to conclude for the Vice President. Now is the time for investment. We have already think everything. It's time for investment because you have sound policy and we are addressing all the gap and all the failure for the past. Time for investment, Madam VP, Madam Vice President. Your presence is a strong signal for the strong commitment of the region and a strong signal for all the partners, global partners that West Africa are ready, and we are waiting for the internal finance for the region and finance also for the world partners. Thank you very much, and thank you for your kind attention.
We'll now invite you to observe a short video putting in context the main issues surrounding rice in West Africa.
Food consumption patterns are shifting in sub-Saharan Africa, and rice is at the center of this change. In West Africa, rice has become the fastest growing cereal. More than just what people eat, rice is what millions depend on. For over 400 million people in the region, rice anchors food security, rural livelihoods, jobs, and economic opportunity. Yet, despite its vast potential, West Africa produces only about 60% of the rice it consumes, relying on more than $3.5 billion in annual imports. But a new chapter has begun, defined by a clear regional roadmap, targeted investment priorities, and renewed regional leadership. In December 2024, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, endorsed the Regional Rice Roadmap, a unified vision to achieve competitive, profitable, and sustainable 100% rice self-sufficiency by 2035. Turning this vision into reality to transforming the sector means identifying and scaling commercially viable investments across the entire rice value chain, from irrigation and improved seeds to mechanization, production and processing, logistics, trade policy, and data systems. Together, these efforts can unlock economic growth, reduce massive import bills, unlock intra-regional trade, reduce food insecurity and vulnerability to global economic volatility, create jobs, empower women and youth, and strengthen regional food security and sovereignty. With several countries already advancing investment-ready national rice investment action plans and others close behind, the region is poised to move from planning to financing towards scalable projects across production, processing, and trade. This is a pivotal moment for all actors to align ambition with investment and action and build a West Africa where rice's full transformative potential is realized, where rice is grown, processed, traded, and proudly consumed. In an increasingly volatile world, the private sector's role has never been more critical. Through the AgriConnect initiative, the World Bank Group and its partners are expanding access to finance, technology, and markets, while mobilizing large public and private investment to modernize infrastructure, raise productivity, upgrade value chain, and strengthen food security. The ECOWAS Rice Observatory, supported by partners including the World Bank Group and the Africa Development Bank, is accelerating regional cooperation to help countries deliver on their self-sufficiency goals. With targeted investments, West Africa can achieve its ambitions for the rice sector by 2035, turning vision into reality and securing a resilient, prosperous, and food-secure future for over 360 million people.
We'd like to now respectfully welcome the President of the ECOWAS Commission, His Excellency, Dr. Omar Alieu Touré.
Your Excellency, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Honorable Minister of Agriculture of Ghana, Honorable Minister of State, Honorable Deputy Minister of Finance of the Republic of Ghana, Honorable Ministers of Finance and Agriculture from the West African region, Vice President of the World Bank, representatives of the African Development Bank and the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, distinguished government representatives, Commissioner for Economic Affairs and Agriculture of ECOWAS, and staff of ECOWAS, World Bank, and the government of Ghana, who have worked tirelessly on this roundtable. Representatives of regional and international financial institutions, development partners, private sector leaders, and investors. It is a great honor indeed and a privilege to address this West Africa Rice Investment Roundtable. At the outset, allow me to extend my sincere gratitude to His Excellency President Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, the government and the people of Ghana for hosting this important event and for the warm hospitality extended to all of us. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this roundtable comes at a critical juncture for our region. Over the past 2 decades, ECOWAS has established one of the most comprehensive regional agricultural policy frameworks on the continent through the implementation of the ECOWAS Agricultural Policy, ECOWAP. This has strengthened regional cooperation, enhanced policy coherence, and improved food and nutrition security across West Africa. Our progress is reflected in ECOWAS consistently emerging as the best performing region in the African Union's CAADP Biennial Review from 2015 to 2023. This demonstrates our collective commitment to building resilient and sustainable agri-food systems. This commitment was further reinforced in 2014 with the adoption of the ECOWAS Rice Offensive, a flagship initiative aimed at transforming the regional rice sector. Designed to complement national rice development strategies, the Rice Offensive seeks to enhance food security, reduce dependence on imports, create economic opportunities, and strengthen the resilience of the rice value chain. More recently, in December 2024 in Abuja, ECOWAS heads of state and government endorsed the Regional Rice Roadmap 2025-2035, a strategic framework that seeks to guide investment and accelerate progress towards rice self-sufficiency. To operationalize this vision, the ECOWAS Commission established the ECOWAS Rice Observatory, a regional platform that convenes governments, private sector actors, farmer organizations, research institutions, and development partners around a shared transformation agenda. Through this platform, member states have developed national rice investment action plans and pipelines of bankable projects, translating regional ambitions into concrete national actions. As we continue to review and reposition ECOWAP in alignment with the Kampala Declaration, we reaffirm our commitment to a single regional agricultural policy for West Africa, one that is inclusive, participatory, and driven by a shared vision. This process engages a broad spectrum of stakeholders, including farmers, researchers, the private sector, youth, women, financial institutions, and development partners, ensuring ownership and sustainability. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, our ambition is clear: to build competitive, inclusive, and sustainable agri-food systems that strengthen food sovereignty, create jobs, and drives shared prosperity, while achieving regional rice self-sufficiency by 2035. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, rice occupies a central place in this transformation agenda. It has evolved from a marginal crop into a strategic commodity critical to food security, rural livelihoods, and economic growth. With rapid population growth, urbanization, and changing consumption patterns, demand for rice continues to rise significantly. Despite progress, key constraints persist. Low productivity, high input costs, inefficient milling systems, post-harvest losses, limited access to finance, and insufficient private sector engagement. This accounts for the fact that although regional production increased by 44% between 2008 and 2024, it still falls short of demand. Currently, local production meets only about 60% of regional needs, leaving West Africa heavily dependent on imports. Yet within this challenge lies a significant opportunity. An opportunity to boost domestic production, an opportunity to strengthen regional value chains, an opportunity to attract investment, and an opportunity to accelerate agri-food systems transformation. Building on the work already undertaken with the support of ECOWAS Commission, the World Bank and the African Development Bank, and other partners, this gathering
must serve as a catalyst for action. It marks a transition from planning to implementation, from strategies to investment, and from commitment to tangible results. This roundtable must strengthen investor confidence, deepen partnerships, mobilize financing for bankable opportunities, and accelerate the development of a competitive and a resilient regional economy. Distinguished delegates, I am confident that West Africa possesses the resources, expertise, and entrepreneurial spirit, as well as collective resolve required to transform its rice sector into a cornerstone of food security and economic growth. Excellencies, on behalf of the ECOWAS Commission, I reaffirm our unwavering commitment to working with all stakeholders to unlock the full potential of the rice value chain for the benefit of our people. Ultimately, the success of this roundtable will not be measured by the quality of our deliberations, but by the tangible progress we achieve for our farmers, our businesses, and our communities. The responsibility before us, therefore, is clear: to match ambition with action and commitment with delivery. To conclude, Excellency, allow me to say a word or two about a problem that I always fear as a diplomat, and that is the war or the conflict over the jollof rice. You see, as a diplomat, we've been trained in conflict resolution. But I must admit that a conflict I don't think we will ever resolve is the conflict over the jollof rice. And I thought it would remain between Ghana and Nigeria, but the mistress of ceremonies, or the lady anchoring here, has just added the Senegalese dimension. But Excellencies, I think just a minute of history. I'm talking on behalf, before a professor, a university professor, and I stand to be guided. But I think we all recall kingdoms in the region. We remember the Asante Kingdom, we remember the Yoruba kingdoms, we remember the Mandi, the Ghana. If you go further north, you have the Jollof Kingdom, then you have the Kayor Kingdom, you have the Badibus, the Rips, and others. Now, I come from the Gambia. And I consider myself a Senegambian. And in our region, there is a place called Jollof, a kingdom. And the food there is called chebujen. A version of it is benachin. But then the foreigners could not pronounce this, so they call it jollof rice. Now, it has traveled over to the point that it has caused conflict in the region. And I hope, ECOWAS, we should work hard to resolve this conflict. I thank you.
And now to hear from our special guest, a woman who has broken many glass ceilings, started as the first woman to be Vice Chancellor of a university here in Ghana. She's also the first woman to be Vice President. Let's rise and receive Her Excellency, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. Please welcome her with a round of applause.
And Bernard, I'll not tell everybody that you were at the back trying to dance with the ladies. And I'll also try not to be part of the jollof discussion because the decision has been made already. Thank you very much. The President of the ECOWAS Commission, the Vice President of the World Bank Group, honorable ministers, representatives of ECOWAS and development finance institutions, development partners, private sector leaders, members of the diplomatic corps, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media. I welcome all of you to Accra and to this Rice Investment Roundtable on behalf of the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Beyond rice, this gathering is also about economic transformation, regional integration, and Africa's capacity to feed herself with dignity and confidence, even in an uncertain world. Distinguished guests, food security transcends agricultural concerns. It is connected to macroeconomic stability, social protection, national security, and geopolitical independence. The disruptions of recent years, including climate shocks, have exposed the fragility of global food systems. Export restrictions, trade tariffs, and geopolitical tensions have reminded the world that countries that import too much food also import vulnerability. The West African region possesses fertile land, water resources, entrepreneurial farmers, growing consumer markets, and one of the youngest populations in the world. Despite our economic potential, Africa still spends more than $50 billion or more annually on food imports, with rice accounting for a significant share of that import bill. Rice has become one of the most consumed staple foods across West Africa, with demand rising rapidly, and West Africa alone imports millions of tons of rice every year. The challenge before us is not just about growing more rice, but also about mobilizing the scale of capital required to transform agriculture from a subsistence sector to commercial production, from fragmented production to integrated value chains. West Africa must therefore see rice as a strategic economic asset. It is about jobs for our young people, incomes for farmers, and strengthening the resilience of our economies against future global shocks. Like many countries in our region, Ghana has experienced how imported inflation, supply chain disruptions, and exchange rate volatility can affect food prices and the cost of living for ordinary households. But Ghana also believes that within this challenge lies a historic opportunity to build resilient food systems, industrialize agriculture, create jobs for our young people, and strengthen regional trade under the African Continental Free Trade Area. Above all, we see this as an opportunity for Africa to reclaim greater control of its food future. That is why Ghana is relentlessly implementing its Agriculture for Economic Transformation agenda as part of the broader economic reset program. Our goal is to build integrated agricultural value chains and connect production to processing, logistics, exports, and agro-industry within a coordinated ecosystem. In doing so, we are positioning agriculture as the major driver of industrial growth, export competitiveness, job creation, and economic resilience that it is. Our recent macroeconomic recovery is helping to create the foundation for that transformation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, unlocking West Africa's rice potential will require transformational capital that is patient, competitive, infrastructure-driven, and capable of strengthening entire agricultural systems. That means investing across the chain from irrigation to agro-processing, research, and climate-smart production. Put simply, this means financing agriculture as an industry. The future belongs to countries and regions that can align policy, public policy, private capital, development finance, technology, infrastructure, and research into scalable, productive systems. That is why partnerships among governments, the private sector, and development finance institutions are so important. Transformation will require blended finance, sovereign wealth participation, pension fund mobilization, commercial banks, and institutional investors. Distinguished participants, this capital must also be climate conscious. Climate variability continues to affect rainfall patterns, productivity, and food systems across the Sahel and coastal West Africa. Investments in irrigation, water management, resilient seed systems, digital agriculture, and climate-smart production methods are therefore essential. Africa's agricultural future should be viewed not only through the lens of vulnerabilities, but also through the lens of growth. The sector represents one of our greatest opportunities for investment, industrial development, and export expansion. Ladies and gentlemen, the global food economy is changing rapidly. Demand is increasing. Supply chains are being reorganized. Food resilience is becoming strategic. Africa must therefore position herself as a capable production powerhouse. Distinguished guests, as always, history teaches us important lessons. Some countries that once struggled with food shortages have since become industrial powers. West Africa must pursue her own story with similar ambition and determination. Ghana is ready to work with all partners to advance this regional agenda. We are committed to strengthening policy coordination, improving infrastructure and agribusiness development, deepening regional cooperation, and creating an enabling environment that attracts long-term productive investment across the rice value chain. Let this occasion, therefore, send a strong message. The future of African food security must be grown in African soil, financed by beneficial partnerships, powered by African enterprise, and sustained through regional cooperation. I want to thank you for your kind attention, and I wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much.